Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Con, this is probably one of my favourite topics of all time, about driving that level of performance. And man, I got to tell you, 10 years ago, I would have told you that I was like seriously busy and I had a lot on.
Yep.
And now I look like I didn't even have the engine started. And what I mean by that is that like you've got more things that are coming at you and more complexity. And in a world that's supposed to go so simple with all this technology, for some reason, there's just a lot more of it.
Yep.
So here's the great idea. So in driving performance, this is such an important part of where and what we do, because becoming someone others actually want to be led by. Tell us about why that's important to drive performance in a team. Because like you've got an incredible group of people, and I watch it, and hundreds of them will go and sit in that amphitheater in Parramatta, and they're going to see you present. And I had feedback from your Kickstart that said he was unbelievable. He was in the zone. Like the words were just, he's an incredible orator, but I felt so pumped and so energized by that. Like in terms of driving performance, you have this ability to be able to turn it on for people. Tell us more about that moment and what you're thinking about in how you actually become someone that others want to be led by or that others are inspired by.
Thank you. I paid whoever that was handsomely for that. Mate, that's a really hard question to actually answer from my perspective. I tell you what.
I can answer it for you.
Yeah, please do.
Live the values.
Yeah, but yes, absolutely.
So you're never going on the front page of the AFR for doing the wrong thing.
No. And I'm never going to be on the front page of the AFR for taking credit for something.
Yeah, so do what's right and stay humble.
That's exactly right. So I mean, you know me, there's no car park, there's no office. I eat last at events. It's all that type of stuff. Well, I don't do that because it's cliche. I read it in a book. I do it because that's how I was raised.
Yeah.
So when my father would come home from work, we would all be sitting there. No one took a thing off the plate until Dad got served first, right? But I digress a little bit. So I kind of look at it and I go, whether you're the CEO or the janitor or the whatever it might be, you're exactly the same to me.
Yes.
And I want to create an environment that's safe. Mm-hmm. I want to create an environment that's special. I want to create an environment that empowers people. So for me, to get up and speak those words, they're words that are coming from me. They're not coming from a text. They're not coming from a book.
Or ChatGPT.
No, mate. They're coming from my observations. So one of the things is, experience is going to be our differentiator. Now, that's very easy to say, but let's actually keep digging into that, right? And so when I'm leading my team, I'm trying to work out, how do I keep 157 families safe? Mm-hmm. How do I provide the best platform for them to change their lives? How do I give them the encouragement and the empowerment, the tools and the resources to be able to be the best version of themselves? So our theme this year, we spoke a couple of podcasts ago that it was basics and standards. Nail the basics, raise the standards. This year is better equals better. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm thinking about that going, when we have a great auction result, that's awesome. What could we have done better? I'm not being critical. Mm-hmm. How do we keep elevating?
So you're driving innovation.
I'm driving innovation, but it's the increase of marginal gains that enable us to be able to get to a different level. Mm-hmm. And see that belief, right? So when someone actually has, some great leadership, self-leadership, or, they've got a great leader in their life or in their business, what ends up happening is they break through those glass ceilings and they just keep growing. And they never thought, Monique Layun, perfect example.
Sure.
She's 23 years old. She's an absolute
incredible lady.
Incredible human being, right? Mm-hmm. And has the best future ahead for her. We did Super Saturday. I said, Mon, how many do you think you can do? She goes, I think I've never done more than 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. I said, do you think you're up for 6 or 7? She goes, I don't know. She got to a 6 really easy. And she goes, Con, that's me. And I was like, well, why would we stop now? She goes, I can't run more than 6 auctions. Why can't you run more than 6 auctions? Well, I've never done it before. How does Amit run 15 and Joel run 15? Mm-hmm. She ended up running 9 and sold 9 from 9. Mm-hmm. Now, if you can't lead people through that, they will have mooring lines and things that hold them back because they're beliefs. Mm. Our job as leaders is to break through those beliefs, is to lead by example, is to be that person, that beacon of light and empowerment that's going to help us get there.
So in organisations, sometimes we see like Braveheart leadership moments.
Yeah.
They shall take our lives, says Mel Gibson, where you come in and you're super pumped up, but then it falls flat inside the organisation because there's no consistency in effort.
You can't fake it, Joshy.
But how important is it to have consistency in effort?
1,000%. If I'm having a really bad day, now a bad day for me is being told that someone that I love or care or myself has, something bad's happened, with their health or whatever. So there's actually no real bad days. But if I'm having a day where I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, I got too much anxiety, I got too many things in my head, you're never going to know.
Sure.
And that's not because I'm hiding it. It's because my job is to lead you and my job is to help you get to where you want to get to. So if I put myself in front of you, then that day we both have a negative compounding effect. Does that make sense?
Of course it does.
So I'm not talking about I don't deal with it. I'm not talking about I hide away from it. I'm talking about think of a surgeon, a paramedic. Think of someone, if they've had a bad day, do you think they're going to go into surgery thinking about their bad day or they're going to get in there because they are there to help? That's our job.
And I think that this is interesting because what you're trying to do is then when you're raising the bar, is that then how do you then go to turn that into a system that people can actually do it over time? And so one of the things that I've learned a lot about in driving performance is about getting people to actually learn or to be taught through microsystems.
Yeah.
So if I said to you, okay, great. So here's like micro system. Here's a little micro thing I want to teach you. Okay, great. You want to be a great person. I'm not just going to say negotiation, but I'm going to say, how do you take an offer?
Yep.
Or how do you exchange a contract? And it's a little micro system. These are 5 things that you got to find out from the person before you get to the price. And if you do that, then you can put a contract together.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people actually miss. When you think about why does measurement therefore matter for better coaching?
You can't manage anything you don't measure. It's pretty simple.
So I'm going to go an alternate way. I actually don't think that you're the head of sales or the CEO or whatever you are of that whole McGrath group. I should know, but I just know you're the guy.
I'm just con,
right?
I'm just con.
So I actually think that you're the team manager of a Formula One racing team.
Yeah.
And that all of your property managers and your salespeople are out there and they're the ones that are out on the track.
Yes.
And you have a great operational administration, executive leadership team that's sitting there to then make sure that literally your racers get out there to win the race.
Correct. 2.8 second pit stops, get in there, get out, be safe. There's the strategy. Off you go. Boom, next.
I think, is it Toto? Is that the guy from Mercedes-Benz? But I start thinking about you going this way. Okay, great. So therefore, when you think about that measurement matters, measurement's not about insecurities. Measurement's about saying, how can I provide better quality coaching?
Yep.
And then if you think about that, how can I have powerful one-on-ones with people?
Yeah.
As you're building out your sales leadership team, what are you learning about teaching people the skill of doing a great one-on-one?
Great question, mate. So the first thing about a great one-on-one, it's not actually designed around the one-on-one.
Right.
So for me, if I have a relationship with you, I know you, I know your kids, your partner, I know what you're up for. It's very easy then to get into the actual mechanics.
Sure.
So changing the brakes. But if you're driving the car, I want to know why are you driving the car? What drives you to drive the car?
Sure.
What's the outcome that you're looking to achieve? How can I help you get there faster? So that first bit for me is more important than the actual technical stuff. The technical stuff, just go to Josh Phegan Blueprint. You'll get the book and you'll
come on. That's a bit of emotion. That's a great plug.
It's a great plug, right?
Yes, yeah.
But I'm serious.
Yeah.
So my experience when I've been coached is I'll only care once I know how much they care about me.
Sure.
Right? And that's just my style, right? If I know that someone's being genuine, that's going to places that are probably a little bit uncomfortable for me. So, for example, Shane Small and John McGrath have been, really big mentors for me in terms of observing them, but also learning from them. And I remember Shane said, he goes, our job is to kind of shine the torch in all the dark corners so we can help people see their blind spots. And sometimes that's them as a person. And we've got people that we know that we do that. And we go, hey, mate, do you know that sometimes you might come across as a little bit abrasive, maybe a little bit intense, etc. And then they go, oh, no, I never realised that.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So that's a breakthrough moment for people. That's our job.
And I was like, maybe in terms of driving performance, I think about one-on-ones. Like I'm a real structured guy to say, okay, great, this is what I love in the one-on-one. Is the one-on-one about performance improvement? Is it about recognition of great work done? Or is this a one-on-one to actually start to get really strategic?
Yeah, exactly.
And when all of a sudden you start thinking that way, then all of a sudden you can actually really get clear about what it is that you're actually doing to make it happen. You're really amazing at this skill of connecting people to vision, to their goals, to helping them to discover some dreams, for what I'd go to call like very powerful emotional energy on the inside of their business.
Yep.
How do you do that? Because sometimes it's like you might find an 18 or a 19-year-old who's really driven around something, and other times you'll find an 18 or 19-year-old that's not. And sometimes you can find a 30-year-old that feels lost. And at the same time too, you can find a 55-year-old that might feel irrelevant.
I think I've been an 18 and a 19-year-old, and I've been a 35-year-old, and I've been lost, and I've been on track, and I've been off track. I'm not 55, so I'm not there yet, or irrelevant, so hopefully I'm not. I think, mate, I've been very blessed that the people from when I started in sales when I was 19, which is now 26 years, right? I've been in sales and leading teams, have given me a lot of, a lot of experience around connecting an outcome to a professional outcome to what it actually means to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't finish uni. I got into a Bachelor of Computer Science, and that was the worst. I mean,
you were going to be
I could have been Atlassian, mate.
Yes,
right? Seriously,
okay.
right?
Wow.
Yeah, exact same year as those guys.
Yes.
And I got into it. I didn't enjoy it. So then I got into a thing called telemarketing. But to fast forward,
seems like an interesting step.
Well, I needed a job, right?
Right.
And my mate said,
wasn't the next room at uni.
but what I'm getting to is that everyone has kind of connected me to a why.
Yes.
So for me, I always liked it. So how do I explain this? People really want to know what their journey and destination is. And a lot of people are lost. They're working day to day, week to week. I'm not talking about money. I'm just talking about their careers. So imagine if we could achieve the goals that you want to achieve over 10 years in 5 years. Does it change your life? Of course it does. So then let's build a process and let's actually get down into the micro elements of being able to enable you to do that. So for me, it's all about letting people choose their own adventure, their journey. And then once they know that you're going to be there in their corner, the cut man or woman or the Formula One pit crew, they're going to run.
Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
So, Con, I'm going to tell you about a phenomenal thing that changed a lot. And it was the day that I decided that, okay, great, I'd buy my house. And I bought it here in Sydney. And I was in an apartment, which I was leasing at the time. And I looked at my calendar, and it was hard because the apartment complex that I was moving out of, you could only move out during the week.
Oh.
And I wanted to make it all happen. I was about to go and do some work in London the following couple of days. So I was like, how do I do this? And a good friend of mine at the time said, mate, you should ring this lady called Mrs. Packer.
Oh, I knew you were going to say Mrs. Packer.
I was like, yeah, okay, great. So I rang up this lady and I was like, oh, hey, Bianca, my name is Josh. This is what I'm doing. I need to move house. I don't have time to be able to go to the real estate agency, pick up my keys. I need to somehow pack up all my stuff. I need to move. And then 2 days later, I'm on a flight to London because I've got some work over there. How could you make all this happen for me? And she's like, Josh, I've got it handled. Let me come and meet you. So she came over to the house, I came over to the unit, had a quick bit of a look around. I got the authorization for the key release from the real estate agency.
Awesome.
And I'm like, okay, great. At 6 a.m. in the morning, she met me at the apartment. I was like, okay, cool, see you later.
I'm going to London.
And I went off to go and do work in Erskineville that morning. Right. And so I went and had breakfast. I had breakfast at 7 o'clock. Someone else was packing up my house. And then I'm actually in this position that then at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm finishing for the day and I'm on my way home and I get back to my new house at 4 o'clock. And Mrs. Packer is there, and 80% of the house is already unpacked in perfect condition. Wow. She was down to the point where she was working out the logistics of which side she wanted the cutlery drawer on the left or the right-hand side of the stove. And I was just like, you're so good. What did you do beforehand? And she was like, I used to work on film sets in Australia, and she was the head gaffer for The Matrix.
Wow.
So they'd move stuff around. So we're 10 years down the track. Mrs. Packer is still in my
I know she is. I know.
A lot.
I know.
I get caught. I don't have time to drop off some dry cleaning sometimes. I had to get a new tyre on my mountain bike. I had to get my motorbike serviced. She was in a bit and I'm telling you, she's amazing. And she said to me, Josh, I'm going to do 90% of things that a wife would do, except for that bit, but 90% we're going to do. And I got to tell you, she's a lifesaver.
Oh,
and she said to me, she goes, Josh, some of the jobs that you have sent me have been wild. And I was like, I know. And she's just like, but you know what? I think everyone's got to have a Mrs. Packer in their life.
That's the
big difference.
That's the best.
Something that's changing your view.
Really thinking through what happens in business how you become a magnet for landlords. So this is a great one. I sat down with a client the other day and we were talking, they were frustrated in BDM that they weren't getting much business growth. And I was like, okay, great, let's get really clear about it. So I said, okay, whatever it was, 100 new managements came in last year, fine. How'd you meet the landlord? Okay, great. Were they already a landlord or not? Was it a takeover or not? Or was it new, as in someone was in a position that they just bought a property and they needed a service, and where they referred in, we started breaking it down. And what we realized is that in this particular business, like 80-90% of the landlords that were coming there because they were just really unhappy with the previous experience.
Right.
Or they were coming over because there was mismanagement, or they were coming over because their property manager retired, or they came over because the business that they were, was previously looking after them had sold. And I just thought, geez, we've missed it.
Yeah.
So what we're actually going to go and do is that we're going to be in a position that we are going to do a marketing campaign. And the marketing campaign is, are you unhappy with your property manager? It's easy to switch.
Yeah, wow.
Do you want to break up with your property manager? We'll do it for you. Are you in a position that you don't know your property manager's name? You should. Call us, we'll make it happen for you. So we basically just brainstorm this basic idea that literally lets us really properly tap into why consumers are making change and run a proper marketing campaign around that.
How did that go?
So they're doing that right now.
They're doing it now? That's interesting.
The second point, which was interesting, is that we do quite a lot with a business called Place Estate Agents up in Brisbane. And I was on their website and I was working with Dave, who worked in their team, and I said to him, hey, I don't reckon it works. He's like, what? Like, when you click on their website, how do you go to the bit about hiring a property manager? Like, is that the word? Is it hire? And what they had done is that they had probably replicated a lot what others had done, is like request appraisal. And I said, Dave, I don't need an appraisal. He goes, what do you mean? I said, if I'm a landlord, I don't need an appraisal. My house is already currently leased.
Correct.
I just don't like my property manager.
Yeah.
He's like, well, okay, so what should we call it? I'm like, call it Get a Quote. And he goes, yeah. I said, mate, we've done it at Luton in Canberra. Do that again at Place in Brisbane. He goes, yeah. Anyway, we just did their Climb, the Climb, which is their big launch event this year. And I was talking to Dave. I said, how'd you go? He goes, guess what? I said, what's that? He goes, in January, I didn't tell anyone. And we changed it on the website, and under manage, it's got Get a Quote. I said, and what happened? He said, 28 managements at full fee.
Oh, wow. There you go.
And so the lesson is, tap into the language that customers really understand in their moment of frustration. Don't just replicate what others have done. And I reckon that, Bresic Whitney did this when they called theirs off market.
Yeah.
And hats off to Shannon and his team, because consumers got it
correct
straight away.
Yeah.